So this is real important. Yes.
Is there any potential that that date is going to be able to be extended? Because from the trenches, I'm finding out that people still do not have the information that they need. And we're really, everybody that said at the church the other day at Manasquan that we're already in phase 2, I apologize, but we're not. And we have to do a better work and beg FEMA to bump that deadline another month.
It's a joint. Can you hear? Okay. Okay. He was wondering if he's saying that a lot of people don't have the information, that folks don't know the register at this time, and that is there any possibility that there could be an extension? I say there's always a possibility, but do not ever count on an extension. I haven't heard any talk. I am not privy to that right now, but the state will be working with FEMA if it does want an extension to work on maybe asking for an extension and trying to move that forward. I have not heard anything at this time.
I just want to add that date is artificial and really arbitrary because, I mean, you know, in order to qualify for that, people have to go and get denied from somebody else. So not only that, but they have to also come up with a plan to do their work, which means lifts and architects and all that stuff.
Yes.
I mean, it's a joke. Why even have it? There's so many people who can't get to the finish line.
All they have to do is register. We're not asking them to have a plan or to know what's going to happen at the end. And what the gentleman was saying is that that's an arbitrary date because people can't have a plan yet. And there's so much that goes into it. Yes, there is. And that's why we do case management. That's why I'm a voluntary agency liaison, to try and assist and support the community in bringing together those groups that can do that. It is very difficult. And but all they have to do is register. They don't have to know what they're going to be doing after that. Just get them to the internet or to a telephone or to a disaster recovery center, a DRC, and assist them with registering.
So with the first two things you say to anybody be register for FEMA and register for SBA?
Yes, if they qualify, if they've received an SBA packet. And if they register and don't have a packet yet, then that will be part of the process.
Could that be included in a flyer that all you need to do now is to register? I mean, that information can be told to the people?
We can hand it out.
We'll hand it out. I mean, this...
Okay. We'll put that on our list. I mean, that's easy enough. I don't want to, I know you have a lot of questions, and I understand that. And we do meet individually with each committee, and we will take these questions in depth with each committee. But this is the one opportunity this month for this long-term recovery group to get together. So if we drill down, and we'll be here this afternoon to answer questions, so if we drill down to some of these minutiae that are not minute when it comes to human suffering, I understand. But if we drill down to them, we won't be able to get through the day, and I don't want to take up too much of the time. So if it's a broad general question, okay, I have two folks over here.
My question is whether a requirement to file with SBA is, if filing with SBA is a requirement for this assistance through this committee, or only filing with FEMA?
No, it is not a requirement. Although, I will tell you, long-term, as far as I know it's not, but long-term recovery groups, if they have a lot of applicants, will look at whether somebody may look at whether somebody has had the opportunity to apply for a long-term, low-interest loan. So sometimes that becomes a qualifier within the long-term recovery group. At this time, I haven't heard anything about that. Yes, Christine.
My question is, who should register for FEMA? What I'm understanding from our training that we had this week when at the PDA was if you are a citizen of the United States and you were affected by Hurricane Sandy, you should go to a DRC.
That is correct. And if you have a child, if you are not a citizen of the United States, and you have a child who was born in the United States that lives in your household, then you too need to go and register for FEMA if you were affected by Hurricane Sandy. Yes, a human being, renters, homeowners, business owners, you need to register for FEMA if you were affected by Superstorm Sandy. I'm going to take...
That's a general question.
Okay, there was somebody behind you though, Don. So, two more, including Don.
Okay, along those lines, with the undocumented, and even if they have a child, they're still afraid to come forward
Yes.
because FEMA is a government agency. So how are we as a group going to be reaching out?
Well, I sent an email the other day about, I know there is one church that has quite a few masses where a lot of the undocumented population relies on this church. I would suggest that if you work in social services or any kind of human services, if you're just a friend of someone in that community, that you reach out to them and assist them in not being afraid to register. And I know there is fear involved, but I have never heard of any repercussions from registering for an undocumented.
Two more questions.
Many of the people who have been in the hotel think that they're in their transitional housing, but they actually have rental assistance. Can you explain what the difference is and why people confused if they don't know that?
Rental assistance, she was wondering why people that are in the hotels under the Transitional Sheltering Assistance Program, which is a completely different program than our housing program, our actual rental assistance program. Right now, if they are in there, it's because they have not found a solution, or they're not far enough along in their application process to find a solution to get them into long-term housing, which is, it runs for 18 months, up to 18 months for rental assistance. And of course, there's a lot of appeal processes in that also as we go along. You recertify after 2 months when you have rental assistance and you're in an apartment or in a house. And then you take all of your receipts and you recertify. This is just summing it up very quickly. They do know, because they're being worked with one-on-one, they may not understand. So you need to work closely with them to help them understand that this is just a very temporary solution to provide safe, secure living quarters for anybody who is affected by Sandy, that was put into place because there wasn't a lot of direct housing to go to right away. Explain that when we have so many people affected by a disaster, we put this what's called TSA, Transitional Sheltering Assistance, in place to get them quickly into something safe and secure for 2 weeks at a time. We do the extension. The first, I'm sorry, I can't remember what the first length of time was, but after that it's a 2-week extension. We are trying to move everybody that was eligible for rental assistance into their long-term housing. But as you know, housing is hard to find right now, or difficult to find, and sometimes it's difficult to find for special cases. If you have 10 children or 7 children, it's more difficult to find a home than it is if you have 2 children. So, especially in the limited market right now, and within your price range. So that's just one example. If you are a senior and you need an access ramp, we may not have as much ADA housing available right away. So we're trying to move them towards that ADA housing. So everybody is being worked with, and if they didn't qualify for rental assistance, the caseworkers that are working with them with Red Cross and the housing people at FEMA are trying to find another solution for them before this ends. So.
One more, Donna. We'll get you later. Thank you. Donna.
This is a general question. A number of us represent nonprofit agencies, municipalities, etc. and we talk about the individual applications, but there's been very little discussion about the PBA applications, the public benefit applications, and what the process is there. I mean, I know numbers of people that sent them in, and very few have been contacted. And I just wanted to know if there's a possibility that we could have someone speak to that at one of these meetings.
Sure. I mean, we basically handle individual assistance here. It goes through OEM, if I remember correctly. Mm-hmm. So we'll have to get, maybe we'll get Mike from the county OEM.
And we will bring in people specific to certain programs. We just wanted to get through this organizational meeting and also have the committees report out. But definitely, please let Tim know what you would like. I know you may want somebody from mitigation to speak at some time, and we can also do that in relationship to the construction group. Okay? I wanted to mention real briefly, do I still have time?
Yes, we do.
Okay. That it's important to do some volunteer tracking. I think each of you have received a form. There's several reasons we do this, and I've listed on here what we'd like to see, your agency or the individual volunteer
There's
name,
a couple of forms at each table.
the dates and times that they volunteered, the description of the work, and then a good record of any donated materials, supplies, equipment. And in that, you would like to list the value of the equipment and the quantity. So, I have my glasses on, it's a little hard to see. One of the first reasons to do this is to advocate for the value of volunteers and to advocate that as a group, there are volunteers and they're putting in X amount of time for X amount of dollars, and then when you go to get grants or to get foundation money, you can show the value of the group, and you can also show what you will need in the future. That if you have done $60,000 worth of work already, and if you've done X amount to house these volunteers, that you will need so much money to sustain operations in the future. And there's an expert here, and I know I'm doing this quickly and not getting it quite right, but I think I'm touching on it. Correct me if I'm wrong at all. The next thing is to offset the local share in the 75-25, the U.S. government and the state government share of disaster cost. So that is basically some of your ongoing work. You will not qualify for this, but right now that covers what we call our public assistance policy categories A and B, and basically that's for debris removal and emergency assistance. So things like sheltering, mucking out houses. So if those hours are recorded and you hand that in to your local emergency manager, he will hand it either at his level or into the county level, and it will be submitted in what we call a work packet, a public assistance work packet. They will figure out the cost, so be sure and have down what those volunteers did, because they will look at the going cost for that without looking at premium costs. They'll look at the going cost for that specific task and calculate that and put it into the figures. And what it does, it's not that the community is handed money for those volunteer hours, but in a way, you kind of are, because as you have to come up with your 25% local match, or 10%, or whatever it turns out to be or is, these costs can be placed against that, so that you could actually, and it's more complicated than that. I can provide the actual policy to Tim if anybody's interested in looking at that further, but I just wanted to touch that briefly. But it's important to tell the stories, and it will help you recruit more volunteers, and the most important thing is that it helps build that capacity and capability going forward. So if you advocate for your volunteers by making them feel valuable and showing your community how valuable they are, then we can work wonders sometimes. Okay. Do we have time for questions, or should we wait till
And let's move on.
I need to move on. I think this is my last one. I wanted to touch on upcoming training. There is a handout on your table. We have what we call recovery tools and training that is being sponsored by Church World Service and several of our other national voluntary
Recovery Tools and Training,
such as
Thursday, January 17th, Presbyterian Church of Thomas River. Saturday,
Our
January
evening folks
18th,
who are
Crescent
here are
Avenue
teaching a
Presbyterian
class,
Church,
one of the
Plainfield.
sessions. This is Thursday, January 17th in Toms River at the Presbyterian Church of Toms River, and Saturday, January 18th in Plainfield. Anybody who really wants to get a good feeling of what long-term recoveries do across this nation, I would go to this training and hear it from the experts, hear it from those voluntary organizations who do this day in and day out in communities who have felt as despondent as you are feeling right now. So it's a good place to get together, to ask those questions, and to hear from the experts. The next one was mentioned earlier, the Coordinated Assistance Network.
What time are these meetings?
Oh, they're at 9 o'clock. I was trying to remember. I got there at 7:30 yesterday, but it's 9.
Saturday, we will not be attending Saturday.
Saturday the 19th. That's what I get for my 12 o'clock slides. Okay. Coordinated Assistance Network. We do not have a date for this yet. This database, this web database of basically for case management is hosted by American Red Cross, but I wanted to point out that it's very collaborative. All voluntary organizations that sign up and are approved for it have access and can share the intake data that's put into it, both resources and client information. This is collaborative. A lot of our voluntary organizations worked long-term with Red Cross to develop the system. It still may have a few bugs. I know some of you have mentioned that, but it is the best thing that we have for being able to really share the information of our applicants and to move forward with their cases, and to do that so that it's seamless and easier for the actual applicants, so that they don't have to start all over again every time they visit with somebody else. So we want to try and take as much as we can off of their shoulders. And I'd recommend, I will get this information to Tim and Tara to get out to all of you when we have a date set. The final training is our United Methodist Committee on Relief Disaster Case Management training, and we have some dates set for that. It will be in Toms River on the 22nd and 23rd of January, and in Atlantic County at a site to be determined, they're not sure what town yet, on January 24th and 25th. It's a 2-day training. You have to go to both days. It's their basic disaster case management training. They do have some advanced training that they can offer later, but this is a really good in-depth training, and you combine it with the CAN training. It's something that will be really valuable and answer a lot of your questions as far as case management. That's why I just kind of let the discussion go on about case management, because these folks know what they're doing and they give this training all the time. So I recommend that for anybody who is doing disaster case management, and once those positions are filled, anybody who will be heavily supporting disaster case management if we have some openings. Okay?
That's it. Thank you. Okay, next up, I think we could. Okay, in your package, in the 4th page is our Monmouth listserv offerings. We set these up to start communication amongst the group and amongst each committee. We have populated the email addresses with the members of the committee that we knew of as of about a week ago. You can sign up for any committee. There's no approval process. Sign up for or know anybody who wants to sign up for the general committee or each committee. If you want to track the activity of another committee, to sign up for it. There's instructions on how to post to the committee. We did get a committee yesterday post their minutes. What was that? Construction, was it? Thank you, construction. Great example. Please, let's get the communication going and flowing. We do post a lot of stuff. I do, Tara and I, but anybody can publish stuff. You get a flyer or see something of interest, post it. If you want to communicate a question amongst the group, post it. This is our way to start having a little more informal or formal communication amongst us, and it's pretty simple. One question back there.
Where is the list of organizations that are participating in this long-term recovery committee?
We'll post it. We post it. We have it listed in the draft protocols that we may have circulated last week. I'm not sure, but we'll post it this week. There's 30, 40, 60. It's like 50 or 60 organizations. Pretty impressive.
So you mentioned this is for this group. Is this just internally here? Because I know this was sent to me via someone at my office, so I know this has been passed around.
This is
for something that we should have colleagues sign up for this list?
Anybody who's involved, anybody who's involved or want to track or be involved or find out what's going on with the Monmouth County Long-Term Recovery Group. Open, transparent process. Anybody who thinks they want to see or hear something, we'll then use it. And the communications group will come up with some other stuff down the road, but we had to get started with the listserv stuff. Any questions on that? Okie dokie. In the package is also a brief summary of the Red Cross program. At some point in time, we'll have the Red Cross here to review that. And then we do have a confidentiality agreement in the last page of the document. Basically saying you keep anything you see individually from any of your clients confidential. If you could sign these, and somebody from each table can collect them and give them to Tara, myself, or Sarah, or we would get that process going. Yes?
I am with the Red Cross.
Oh, very good.
You want me to review a little bit?
Sure.
I didn't know this was in here. Hi. If you turn to, just to explain a little bit what we're doing, we've had caseworkers on the ground for the past 3 weeks now, and our first priority has been visiting the hotels. We had gotten a list from FEMA of where the TSA, the residents were, in which hotels, so our caseworkers have been out in the hotels working with the clients there to find out what their next moves were, if they had places where they might be able to move into but were lacking some funds in getting into those places, whether it be security deposits or rental assistance or something. So that's what we've been trying to provide them with so we can get them moved out of the hotels. They were our first priority when the program was announced. Word had gotten out, so we're getting a lot of phone calls also, so we've built a database of the clients that have been calling in, and on a first-come, first-served basis, we have our caseworkers reaching out to those clients also. So if anybody knows of anybody who might not have been in a hotel and maybe was staying with relatives and friends and needs some assistance now because they have secured some place to move into but don't have the financial money, the finances to do it, have them contact us. They can call the chapter in Tinton Falls. That number is 732-493-9100. They can ask for myself. My extension is 1250. So I know I'm going to get a lot of phone calls now. So, but people do have to be patient. We're recruiting caseworkers. I just got an email that we're trying to recruit 180 volunteer caseworkers. And our volunteers come in from around the country, so as soon as we can get more caseworkers in here, we're going to be able to reach even more people. So people do have to be patient with us at this point because we are getting, I know I've been inundated already with phone calls. But if anybody has any questions about our program, I'll be around for a while and you can just come see me on that.
Okay, thank you very much. I made 100 copies of the package, and I understand that we ran out. So that's a good news, bad news.
A wonderful problem.
Yes. So we will make use of the listserv and send everything out later today, tomorrow, and everybody will get it, and they can circulate it. Okay. Next up is our chairman will lead the committee report outs.
Thank you very much. I know when the vote came up, I'm sure you were all thinking, I don't know who this guy is, but as long as it's not me, I'll vote for him. So we'll do committee reports and ask you to make them brief, to the point, so we can move along. So we have plenty. Starting with the executive committee. Executive committee met last week. You saw the product of what we had done. The beginning of the mission statement, beginning of the process, and beginning of the protocols, moving to elections, etc. Meeting next week, we will be formalizing the relationship between the executive committee and each of the committees. So there has to be some kind of liaison, some type of relationship between each committee and the executive committee for decisions to be made. So we'll be formalizing that, reviewing the protocols in more detail, and establishing the fiscal agent agreement. The United Way will act as the fiscal agent, something that gets approved, and we'll need to finalize that, and that'll be next week. So we'll move on to the construction committee. Anybody from there would like to give a report?
Good morning. I don't need a mic. Good morning, everybody. I'm Maureen Mulligan, and I'm temporarily co-chairing the housing committee along with Pastor Dean Brown. So if I'm not around, he is. Our committee met last week for the first time officially and decided that going forward we will be meeting every Wednesday that the larger group is not meeting. We had a long meet, and it will be here at 10 o'clock. We had a rather long meeting discussing the issue of long-term housing versus the immediate needs, and decided that it was in everyone's best interest to keep them separate, so we will continue to move forward with long-term housing. We're looking for some specific training, and one of our committee members, Bill, has offered to pursue getting the training that we feel that we need. I think that's it for now, but we will be back here every Wednesday that the larger group is not. Thank you.
Great. Thanks, Maureen. The Unmet Needs Committee? Hi.
I'm loud too. I'm Maura Comer. I'm with Interfaith Neighbors, and we had our first meeting the end of last week. And I just want to thank Tara and Suzanne for coming to that meeting. Because basically, I think it's more of an informational meeting than anything. That chart that was up there today was explained to us by Tara, which helped us realize what our role is in this whole thing. So, we don't have a meeting scheduled. What we're trying to do is I'm going to ask the committee members to go to all of your meetings. Because I think that, especially, and we discussed this with case manager, and we'll be working closely with them, we need to know what everybody else is doing. So we're going to try and have a rep contact one of you all so that we can know when you're meeting and we can see what's going on, and then come back and then see what we need to do as a group. Lori Dehudney wanted me to let you know Project Homeless Connect will be on the 30th of this month. There are flyers on every table, and we are encouraging Sandy victims to come, please, because there will be a lot of free giveaways that day. So if you please take a look at those flyers, take them back to your organizations, and spread the word. If you can't find, there's more over by the lobby table.
So that count, a big push in that count will be to count the number of people who are homeless because of the hurricane, which is different than most years, but certainly an important number for sure. Great, thank you. Health and healing.
I guess we're health and healing. We were emotional spiritual care last month. We did meet January 3rd. We've actually had a lot of trouble trying to get some coordination of all of the helpers. Actually, we didn't know the Red Cross was involved with case management. There's Catholic Charities USA, there's Catholic Charities Trenton Diocese, Now there's Red Cross. We're not sure who to hand off some of our emotional, spiritual need people to at this point, and I think we're going to need the communication group to help us understand that. There's a lot of mental health and spiritual counseling going on. I have to thank the Mental Health Association of Monmouth County. We have about 70 licensed therapists who have volunteered up to 4 sessions for people who need more, traumatic loss counseling. It's free counseling. You contact the Mental Health Association in order to get that engaged. We do have Catholic Charities in Red Bank, who their therapists have said that if there's a need in that area, contact Catholic Charities in Red Bank, the local Red Bank office, and there are therapists who have volunteered time to make that happen also. We do have our Hope and Healing group, about 20 volunteers who are out there about 20 hours a week, going out into the community and doing the FEMA FEMA crisis counseling efforts. But what we found is, and for those of you who took psychology in college, Maslow's hierarchy of needs, the emotional, spiritual is like down, up here, and until we get people in a safe environment where they feel secure and they have food and they know where they're going to be sleeping next week, they're not going to be worried about their emotional, spiritual care right now. They're really worried about, how am I going to get my kids to school? How am I going to get food on the table? And, where am I going to be living, once the 25th of January rolls around? So that's what we're finding, is that it's really difficult to address those emotional, spiritual needs. The good news is there's a lot of stuff going on in the community. A lot of the faith-based groups are taking care of their own congregations, their neighborhoods, opening it up to whomever. You don't have to be, a member of that faith. We have lunches, we have dinners. There's a lot of things going on in our community. We don't know everything that's going on because it's local. It's where it's supposed to be. It's taking care of the 5 square blocks, attached to the church, the temple, the faith-based community, which is local. We would like to know more about what's happening, and we want to reach out to the ministeriums to get that information and put it out there into the community, because there are those individuals who are not taking advantage of that, and we want to just include them in and say, here's a nice, well-lit place with a hot meal and, a place to come and pray if you feel like it, or just, get some, comfort. And that's what our goal is going forward.
Thanks, Steve. All right, moving on to housing.
Actually, we changed our name to distinguish ourselves from Maureen's group, the construction housing. We are now calling ourselves the immediate housing unit. I hesitate to phrase these as objectives, but our areas of interest, we identified 5. One is overlaps with the Communications Committee. The dissemination of immediate and accurate information about available housing for people who are going from hotel to hotel or have no place to stay right now. That's a key interest of ours. We're looking for a manner of matching homeless survivors with that housing. That's whatever form that might take. There's types of housing out there that we're certain nobody's fully aware of yet. There are snowbirds that are in Florida right now who may have a place available for some of our homeless survivors that they could use for a couple of months. There are houses on the market that are not being widely advertised yet because they're not through real estate listings, and other areas like that. We're trying to collect that information and figure out a way of matching them up with people that are wandering around in Monmouth County right now. We have a couple of political interests as well. We're doing some things, as JJ mentioned, to push for more portable housing to be brought into the county, not only in Fort Monmouth, but in other places in the county as well. We are also interested in working with the towns, I think as JJ also mentioned, to get some relief from zoning requirements and certificate of occupancy fees or requirements as well, at least on a short-term basis. We're not certain how we're going to pursue these things because there's so many different entities to deal with, but that is certainly something that we're pursuing. And lastly, we're interested in centering ourselves around the dissemination of any cash that's available into the hands of people that need that cash for security deposit, first month's rent, things along those lines. It's an area of interest of ours. We don't know if we want to be directly involved in that dissemination, but at least we want to be able to communicate information about it. JJ, what did I forget? We touched on a lot of this already.
Well, we touched at something politically needs to really be done, hopefully on a state level. Some of it was some people can't do the houses where they did before.
Exactly.
You know, if you do it statewide and not by individual towns, you know, we'll have a better shot of rebuilding the right way. It's a very touchy subject.
If anybody here is interested in this, we're next meeting on Friday at 9 o'clock in Middletown at the Middletown Reformed Church. Come join us. 9 o'clock on Friday at the stool of the Middletown Reformed Church on Kings Highway in Middletown. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We go to donations. Donation committee.
We have met in December on the conference call, kind of trying to figure out how we're fitting in and what step process we're in as far as the donation management, where we're being housed. I know Joe is managing the state warehouse and getting everybody on aid matrix that needs to get on. Our biggest, I guess, hurdle is getting a warehouse on other unmet needs or different things with donations other than the state warehouse, because there are a lot of, I know Linda and myself have met with a bunch of families and organizations that, you know, say they need things, but we just don't have a place to get them to when a donation comes in. So, and finding it in a prime location is definitely hard as well. We did meet with, on a separate note, we were out doing volunteering. We had met with Congressman Pallone's office, and he's trying to get some, help through the governor's relief fund, and trying to find warehousing and space available. Based on the email yesterday, I don't know if I'm supposed to bring this up, but it seems like volunteer management and donation management is being merged now. Is that right?
Yeah, we'd like to find out why that's happening.
I don't know. So I'm a little confused right now about how we're supposed to, what stage we're coming in. And I think our primary question still is, where does donation management come in after case management and connections? Because we're still rock and roll on our movement, and donations are still being collected, obviously, in the state warehouse. So where do we go? So we need to meet again.
I don't need the mic, I'm loud as well. So I think there's a couple things that just need to be identified with donations, because it can become very confusing. The state warehouse is its own entity, and aid matrix is its own entity. They're not intertwined. If you want to put in a request to the state, you do that. If you want to access aid matrix, then you do that. Two separate things. Aid matrix and then the state warehouse. There's definitely confusion with that. Two separate things.
You're taking the inventory now.
So there's air compressors, there's power tools, there's your daily hygiene, there's an arrest, like literally an arrest. I have a spreadsheet set up that I can email to you guys as well. That's why email's the best because verbally you can get lost.
Can I just ask, we have offers of donations. Should they be going to the state warehouse or should they be going locally?
What section?
A lot of times it's furniture, appliances.
If I may, those of you who don't know me, I'm Joe Galletta, the state voluntary agency liaison inside the state Office of Emergency Management. I passed out this form to each of the groups in here just to give clarification, as Sarah mentioned, on the state warehouse and the state donations management plan, which has been activated for this disaster. If you look at this sheet I handed out, I hope everyone has a copy. I have extras if you don't. But there's two things that Sarah explained. There's the state warehouse that's open, that the state is accepting donations in kind from the governor's office. And there's that 1-800 number, 1-855-NJ-DONATE. And there's the email, donate@gov.state.nj.us, that people can donate stuff to the state. And we obviously would accept that if it's in relatively good condition, palletized, wrapped, so we could store it in our warehouse, which is in Mercer County. So you look at that, there's the state warehouse email we've set up. So I'm trying to get this out to you because those of you that are going to attend these long-term recovery trainings, whether it was tomorrow or on Saturday in Plainfield, you're going to get a sense to understand where you fit in the long-term recovery group process based on what Monmouth County is all about. So you'll get a chance to understand, okay, we're the Donations Management Committee, we're construction, health and healing. You'll know where you fit into the big picture. And with this disaster, with over 250,000 registrations, the key thing to remember, this is going to be a long-term process. We're talking 2 years, maybe more, down the road, that people are going to be crying out for assistance. And at these trainings that they're given, Church World Service is given, they've given us a little block there for the state to present about this state warehouse. So Sarah mentioned you have that state warehouse, and we have stuff in there. I actually put down here the last inventory I had. You'll see what type of stuff we have. So if one of your groups knows that there's a need out there, whether it's for appliances, dehumidifiers, heaters, whatever, you'll go through the donations management committee. Sarah, if you can emerge to volunteer, whatever, you'll have a lead to go through. You know what? We need that stuff. Sarah, can you get that for us? Because we have victims crying out for this type of stuff. There's also the aid matrix. That's on the bottom of the page there. It's the National Donations Management System. Remember, two separate entities. There's a state warehouse, and there's a National Donations Management Network aid matrix. Aid matrix, www.ndmn.us/NJ. That's where anybody in the country can go to our site, New Jersey, and they can donate stuff in kind. I, as an administrator for Aid Matrix, can see that stuff being donated, and then if you say you need it in Monmouth County, I can allocate it. Some people have donated 225 sheets of plywood, perfect for construction. If you need that stuff, I can allocate it and get it to you. Most of the people that have put stuff in Aid Matrix are doing the transportation. So that frees you up, that, oh, now we got to get a van to get the stuff there. Most of the donors are bringing the stuff directly to you or your warehouse in Monmouth County. That's the key. So again, there's a public donation management portal, and it's called Aid Matrix. And you can see Sarah is one of our leads for the Monmouth County Long-Term Recovery Group. Tara also is online, and there's a few others we're trying to get signed in. Every Friday we're having conference calls with the donation management committees across the state representing long-term recovery groups. It's very important that we understand the needs that are out there. Initially, when this disaster happened, we had really strong needs for food, clothing, the immediate needs that you usually get after a disaster hits. Now we're getting into that long-term process, rebuilding. We're going to need building materials, insulation, plywood, roofing materials. That's the stuff we want to post on that National Donations Management portal. If you look down here, under 8 matrix on the bottom of this handout, we are needing you, based on whoever it's Tara, Sarah, your 8
Welcome, we are at the Monmouth County Long-Term Recovery Group meeting.
Now, if you have a need for the plywood, put it on here. We as the state can publish that, meaning everybody in the country can say,
New Jersey relief effort.
I have it, let me donate. So that's the key, remember that. And the last thing on the bottom of that page, probably the most important phone number you'll ever need to know, that's my direct number. You can call me anytime you want, because as a state voluntary agency liaison, working with Suzanne from FEMA, we're very keen on making this group succeed. So please, if you have a problem with state issues, we talk about code stuff, I have contacts with the Department of Community Affairs, please call me directly, and I can help you out the best I can. You also have the other state now, Sergeant Joe Carson. We work together as a team for your benefit. So by all means, hang out to this if you need more copies. I have more. And don't be strangers. Don't be shy. Right, thank you.
Thanks very much. That's real helpful. Sure. Tara's going to talk a minute about the possible merger of the volunteer and donation committee. Got it, Dave.
Thank you. I just wanted to address, someone posed a question about the merger of the two committees. One of the reasons why we're looking to do that, and by no means are we saying that the groups do not have autonomous authority and issues of their own to deal with. Obviously, donations have donation issues just as volunteer groups have their own. However, what we're looking to identify is a centralized volunteer reception center / warehouse that will help the operations of the whole county going forward. It's not going to replace the smaller distribution centers that are in place and are probably going to remain in certain areas for a long time to come. But we do recognize that the places where those smaller distribution sites are eventually going to get tired of running. They're also not going to have a need going forward. Some of them are going to close their doors after a few months or after their building process is done locally. We are trying to identify one site that is going to stay open through the totality of this rebuilding process. It's going to be a warehouse for some of those bigger products, like Joe was just saying, the sheetrock, the plywood, the building materials. This is going to be a large operating warehouse. And with it is going to come a volunteer reception center because we need a large-scale place where the visiting volunteers can come. There's going to be large groups of them. There's many of them here now. We need a coordinated place where they can come to. Buses can come. Heavy equipment can come in the morning. They can pick up work orders. They can have a cup of coffee. We can have training sites for them because things like personal protective equipment, the use of that kind of thing will have to be reviewed. We have groups that do those things. Now, we do have smaller volunteer reception center type things that are set up now. Again, we're looking to have one community site where that can be handled over the long term. We have a realtor out helping us to identify a location, preferably in the Bayshore area, but we recognize that there's going to be smaller sites that will remain throughout the county that we can help get things to. For example, the Manasquan area will probably always have a site that they want to maintain on their own. Things can come into our warehouse, and then we can help get them out through the volunteers to some of those places. But it just makes sense that volunteers and donations are always going to be working together on some aspect. We're going to have... Good morning.
Our objection are several-fold. All right? One, this was sprung on us when we had our meeting yesterday morning. We hadn't heard a word about it previously. Because our thoughts have been more along the lines of housing and recruiting volunteers, and then being the agency who provides those volunteers to all the rest of you guys, okay? So if you need a volunteer, you come to us and say, I need 10 volunteers who have this skill level, and I need them at this time, and we can supply those volunteers, okay? So that I see, and the other part of that I see is that as part of Presbyterian Disaster Assistance, whose role in long-term recovery organizations is to provide volunteer housing, all right, that those become your volunteer housing reception center. And so somehow we have to work out a system where we can coordinate what United Way wants to do with volunteer reception centers and what these housing
Sure,
census.
two
We'll
different
do-
things. We're not going to be putting people up overnight in these places. These are going to be a place where people will come in the morning, pick up their work orders, get their equipment, get their sheetrock, get their plywood, and head out for the day. We're talking about two different things. We're talking about a place where all the volunteer groups will come to, not just the Presbyterians, but the
So
Lutherans, the
if
other
I can interrupt then, so if I have a job in Manasquan, if construction says I have a job in Manasquan that needs to be taken care of, or somewhere at that end of the county, and your volunteer reception center is in Matawan, all right, there's 45-minute drive to coordinate your volunteers to get there. And you're taking-
I'll be back in the meeting in a second. There are no bathroom breaks currently, so I'll bring the stream back up live as soon as I get back into the meeting.